Welcome to a fantastic edition of Rebellion's educational series. I'm here with former Navy SEAL Sean Matson, talking about mental toughness and the soldier of tomorrow. Sean, thank you so much for coming on today.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for having me, Alex.
The honor is all ours. So, Sean, tell us about your deployment history. Obviously, I know you've served our military.
Yeah, so I did 5 deployments total. So 3 to Iraq and then 2 to Africa. My active duty time was from 2005 to 2010, and then I did another 3 years in the reserves from 2005 to 2015. So I did 10 years active, and then another 3 years. So 2015 to 2018, I did in the reserves.
Really? And were you in firefights often? Was that something you didn't see very often? How scared were you on a daily basis?
Yeah, obviously in Iraq, we were in there during the heat of everything. So we were going out, especially on the first deployment. We were going out just about every single night, if not every night. It slowed down a little bit from there, but we were going after. SEAL teams were out there to hunt the baddest guys out there. So we weren't going after guys that were stealing loaf of bread. We were going after guys that were drug smugglers, weapon smugglers, financiers, people, suicide bombers. We were going after high level ringleaders in this, and a lot of them were extremely politically sensitive because they were cross-border. We weren't doing any cross-border operations, but the people we were targeting were free flowing in between Iran, Iraq, Syria, all that whole region, moving stuff obviously from Afghanistan across. So that's what we are there to go do, is go hunt those guys. We weren't there, like I said, to go hunt guys that possibly stole a loaf of bread or something.
Did you live with fear on a daily basis then?
No, so the thing is, like, you accept, and that that's what you're going out there to go do. Honestly, we thrive on it, and to go out there and want to go do it, and know that we're getting the opportunity to go do it. And so I loved it. It was no better thing than, especially if you're going to be deployed and be away from family and other things like that, than to know that you get to go outside the wire and go make a difference.
Wow, that's amazing. Were you able to do free jumping from planes as easily as being underwater?
So I grew up swimming. I was a swimmer, and enjoyed. I swam at Division I school, and all through my career. So I enjoyed swimming.
I love every day, actually.
Yeah. But honestly, I love jumping. Jumping was a lot of fun. Actually still skydive, periodically now. Even though I'm out, I'll go jumping a couple times a year, just to go do it, because I love it.
That's awesome. My first cousin was a Navy pilot who actually ran a jump school, but sadly perished in a plane crash last year. So
sorry to hear that.
That happens. Mental toughness. How did that inspire you to start your businesses post Navy SEALs?
Yeah, so my business partner is actually also a former SEAL, Zach Steinbach, and so that's how we get our company name, Matbach. We took part of my last name, which is Matson, his last name, which is Steinbach, and we just cut it in half. But for us, it was really, we saw a need for a particular product, actually, while we were still active. And
so everything you produce is just stuff that you would have liked to have while you were deployed.
Absolutely. That's exactly why we created the company. Was what we saw a lot of companies just copycatting everybody else, and so we bring innovative products to the market. So we're constantly looking at new materials, new manufacturing processes, how we can evolve this, because with more technology comes more weight that they want to put onto a soldier, sailor, Marine, and airman. And, we're trying to look at, well, with all this extra weight you're trying to put on with the technology, how can we eliminate some of these redundancies in there to make it lighter. Our slogan's lighter, faster, warriors. So we ultimately feel like if you're lighter, you can fight effectively, more effectively than
Of
if you
course.
are just heavy.
No, the Russo-Japanese War taught us that fast and light is always going to be better. I mean, it would also go back to the Battle of Actium when Mark Antony lost to Rome. It's
Yep.
always better to be quick on your feet. So when did you know you wanted to be a SEAL? How old were you?
I was 12 years old. So my family was out in California. Actually, we were out there for a spring break. I was in 5th grade, and I saw these guys running down the beach. I had already wanted to serve. I was planning to be a pilot. Top Gun was obviously big, when I was growing up. So I was hook, line, and sinker. I wanted to be a pilot. And but then that changed when I was out there in San Diego, and I see these guys running down the beach with boats and logs and everything like that. And that day I told my mom, I was like, this is what I'm going to go do. And she was like, you don't even know what that is. I was like, I don't know, but that's what I want to go do. So
That's awesome. That's really awesome. What about shooting the gun? Was that something that came to you during training, or was that something that you did prior to joining?
I never grew up really shooting or doing anything around guns. I may have shot maybe once or twice maybe before, but not a lot. So I went in cold. I let the Navy teach me
That's
how to
funny
shoot.
because
So
we talked about your colleague James Waters, who was also a SEAL, and actually James and I both shot rifles together since we probably were 8 or 9 years old. So
mhm.
it's amazing where you come in with strengths, but I mean your strength was that of being a swimmer.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing was, I mean, I did, compared to the rest of the class, I mean, I was definitely behind the power curve on shooting, which made me just have to put more things in. But I also saw it as a benefit in a lot of things because I didn't have some of these habits that maybe you pick up from shooting, because they teach you, hey, this is how we want you to shoot. This is how it's a different mindset, and also just a different way to shoot.
Sean, speaking of mindsets, how much of your mental toughness came from actual Navy SEAL training versus what you brought into it?
So it's hard to say because I mean,
50-50,
you know,
90-10?
I mean, did I learn? Did my mental toughness increase going through SEAL training? Yes, but you already have to have some level of mental toughness to even start that journey, right? Because if you go into it without some mental toughness, you're never going to make it through.
So you felt you were prepared on day one?
What's that?
You felt you were prepared on day one?
Yeah, I knew I was going to make it. I mean, I had that, mentality going into it.
Was there
My
ever a
biggest
day you
fear
weren't sure?
was, so there was, yes. And so like, I knew I could make it. My biggest fear was getting injured or getting sick. So things that were completely out of my control. I knew that I could keep making everything. Now I had, on Tuesday of Hell Week, for me was, I had a moment where it wasn't that I didn't think I couldn't make it. I didn't know how I was going to solve it. And what happened was, is on when you're carrying boats on your head. So think of this as the boat. This be the front. This be the back.
Yes.
You have the 1 man, number 2 man, and number 3 man. And the number 2 is arguably the hardest position because the boat likes to sag in the center part. And one of my guys, well, I was number 3 position, so I was in the back, and he was in the number 2 position. He was like, "Hey, can I get a swap out?" So I was like, "Yeah." So I jumped into number 2 spot, and he went back to my number 3 spot, and my net kept falling forward, which is called ducking boat. And so now you're whenever you're doing that, you're causing everybody else to carry more weight. And I was like, I know I can do this, but like I physically right now, I'm not sure how to do this. Like I've been doing it fine already. It just and it all of a sudden just like inner voice hit me, like God speak to me, whatever you want to say. It was like, just look up, man, just look up. And I was like, oh yeah. And so like I started looking up, got my posture right. And as soon as I did that, I was good to go. And I mean, it was just a short, moment in there, but it was one of those things where
I
it was
love that
like,
line, Sean. I think that line can be applied to everything in life. Just look up, keep your chin
yeah,
up high, when you're going through a storm, keep your head up high. Fantastic stuff there. No, I
yeah.
really love it. So what about history of the SEALs? Grenada was a time when 4 SEALs were lost in the ocean. Was that something you were mindful of, being lost in the ocean at some time?
Yeah, you obviously, as I was going through, and even before, I would read books and read things or hear stories about stuff.
Did
But
you
for
discuss
me,
Grenada when you were in SEAL training? Did they go over what happened there?
they didn't like in detail. We would do certain things, in training where they would help you prepare for, obviously lessons learned from it. So
Stuff.
they would say, hey, this is why we're doing this, right? We had X thing happen here. This
Yeah.
is why we're doing that. And so they would give you those kind of reasons to evolve in your training so that, hopefully you don't make that same mistake.
Yeah, no, definitely. Being prepared is so important. And obviously, the SEALs were once at Grenada stuck in I think it was a president's mansion without proper communication overnight, and they had to hold their position because no
Yep.
one had been tasked with taking the radio, the global satellite radio. So such
Yep.
simple things can lead to such significant disasters. But
Well, it was exactly why. And so when you look at history for SEAL teams, right? Before 9/11, right? So they'd had some, conflicts here or there and things like that. But for the most part, it had been quite a long time before the SEALs had actually been in some kind of fight like that, where it was actually a war type, and so the
did
guys that
9/11
were,
inspire you, by the way?
so I was already in college and I was already set to
Yeah.
go, and I knew I was, going through that route. But
Yeah.
it was, these guys that were towards the latter end of their career, right, were the guys that were previously in some of those conflicts. So now you have this big gap of guys that don't, really hadn't been to this combat zone, and so they're learning from those guys. And we're falling into that situation right now where, wars are dying down. And so like the guys that I all served with are now, senior chiefs, master chiefs, commanders, that, they're CEOs of teams now. And so we're getting towards the latter end of our career, and there's a whole, group, and which is larger, in population, that haven't been to war, and they're now in our military. So
So, what are popular careers for Navy SEALs post career?
so based on the Navy transition, it was I was perfectly positioned to be a truck driver. So that was what the Navy told me that. So
I
go
like
through.
CEO better, Sean.
Yeah, yeah. So when I went through the whole questionnaire, the Navy said, "Hey,
Yeah.
based on your skills and travel and all this stuff like that, you'd make a good truck driver." I was like, "Nah, I don't think that's right for me." So a lot of guys get into the entrepreneurial world,
So, can
and
our
so
viewers buy your products, or is it just for the Navy and the government?
for we do offer the ability to buy some of our products on matbach.com, and then we also have a supplement company called Cardomax, Cardomax. But we do have the ability to buy both over our website, but then we also do government sales. A majority of our revenue comes from government sales.
Should I try Carter Max for my swimming?
Oh, absolutely. It will definitely help. So we have three different categories right now: an energy, which is kind of like a pre-workout, an
Oh,
immune booster that helps de-stress your body, so, and actually helps increase endurance, and then a recovery accelerant too.
wonderful. And my last question is, during your combat, was there a moment you were most scared, most pinned down, thought maybe you would not survive that day?
Yeah, definitely. One that was also where I was completely task saturated. My guys and I were on an op. We foot patrolled in. We were a really small force. We were smaller than typically than we would go out for an
Was it?
American
Was this?
presence.
Where exactly was this?
This is Iraq,
Okay, where
and
though? Where in it?
uh, outside. It was north of Baghdad,
Gotcha.
and,
Mhm.
and out. Out in the desert, basically out north in Baghdad. And we were foot patrolling into this area, and we knew that a group of guys were meeting to basically do a change of command. Oh, sorry, my dog. Do a change of command ceremony between each other, and so we sorry about that. We decided that we need to go ahead and intervene in this. So we uh, flew in, landed, started foot patrolling in, and we got into a contact, started getting shot at. We ended up taking down a guy. But before we knew he was actually dead, he was pretty severely wounded, and he was right where we were at right there. So the rest of the kind of small village that was right there, my guys split up and started clearing it just to make sure we had a good foothold here. Our partner force at the time literally just melted in front of our eyes. They put their guns up, they took their helmets off. They were like, "We're not doing this." They started smoking behind this berm, and we were less than 400 meters away from our target area, so we knew that they'd heard us. They were looking over the walls. They were peeking over the walls with guns, looking at us, and so we didn't know if this was going to start fighting us. We didn't know if the little village that we were at was going to turn and start fighting us. We didn't know if our partner force was going to turn on us and start killing us, because again we were outnumbered probably 3-1
Yeah.
with our partner force. And at that same time, because we have such a small footprint, I'm the ground force commander, so I'm in charge of this entire operation, both our partner force, all the air assets, and everything that's going on the ground. And because we don't have a lot of guys, I now had to become the medic for this guy that we had just shot. So I'm sitting here trying to work on him, talk to my commander back at the talk, and communicate with my team all at the same time. And it was just one of those times where, like I said, I was just completely task saturated. A lot was going on. I'm trying to lead my guys, trying to listen to what's going on, observe everything that's going on, and it was a pretty hairy situation. We ended up, like I said earlier, the guy who ended up dying, didn't get to save him. Did get him on a helicopter, got him out of there, and we all lived and got to fight another day. So it was a successful mission. And at the end of it all, we actually, on my flight home, I literally just took my helmet off, took everything off, and just was like, "Guys, I need to just break away for a second. Like, don't talk to me. I just need, it was a short flight. It was only about a 10-15 minute flight back to the fob. But I just was like, hey, I just need a few minutes to myself." And in that time, I actually came up with one of our best selling products, which is a really soft, a really lightweight medical litter that's a bag as well. And so it ended up becoming a very prosperous op after all of that.
Very cool. Very, very, very cool. So thank you so much, Sean. This was super amazing, and I really appreciate you coming on today.
Definitely. Thanks for the time.
Be well and stay safe.
Yep. You too.